Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein and Fox News contributor and Republican strategist Ed Rollins. Good to see both of you.
Thank you,
Lauren.
You know, Mark Lotter, I'll start with you, Rich. He didn't want to talk about timelines, but investors want timelines. We want to see tax reform and we want to see health care reform. That's what the president campaigned on.
Look, I think we have a couple insights about how popular this health care bill was that passed the House. One, the polls show it to be fabulously unpopular, and with each passing month, the Affordable Care Act is more and more popular. But I think the ultimate exclamation point was you had a House Republican candidate had to body slam a reporter rather than answer the direct question, what do you think about the American Health Care Act, the bill that passed the House? Look, and dozens and dozens of House Republicans refuse to engage in town hall meetings because they're scared to death that they're going to get questions about the health care bill that they voted for. So do I think it's going to pass anytime soon? No, for all those reasons. Okay,
Ed, do you think it's going to pass anytime soon? And what do you make of the fact that Obamacare seems to be imploding before our very eyes as premiums skyrocket and more insurers, Anthem, pull out?
It is imploding, and it basically didn't live up to what it was promised to be. The critical thing here is the timeline, and no offense to Mark, the timeline is you're going to try and do this by reconciliation in the Senate, which means you have to do it in this budget. So you really don't have a whole lot of time. So I would say, is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Probably not. All you can have is a defection of 3 senators and you're done. And right today, there's still several senators. I'm glad that Senator Cassidy came on board, but others still have serious objections. And they've not seen a bill. They're talking about theoretical stuff now. The critical thing, though, is they understand there is a deadlock here. And the reality, if they really want to be serious about all the stuff, they'd not go home in August. They'd basically stay here and work.
You don't get a recess. Do you get a recess?
I don't get a month off, and I certainly don't get 10 days off of the 4th of July. You know, it's sort of the part of the, and the Senate just came back yesterday. So you can take a week, but if you really want to be serious about this thing and you want to make these deadlines, you got to stay here.
Let's move on to tax reform, because I think everybody wants a tax cut at this point. How likely is getting tax reform by the end of the summer, Rich? And what will it look like? I've seen ideas floated around that it will be a smaller tax cut, but it will be one nonetheless. What are you hearing?
Yeah, look, it's got to be, if we're going to have tax reform, and something, I think we really should start talking about tax cuts. And the reason is we need a president who is on top of this, as opposed to one who tweets, my tax bill is moving faster than anybody thought, when there is no tax bill. Doesn't somebody actually have the decency to kind of grab him by the lapels and tell him, Mr. President, we don't have a tax bill, so please. Look, the reason I actually think between infrastructure, which will need 60 votes, health care, for the reasons that Ed and I just said, I think is not in the cards anytime soon. The reason I think we may actually get tax cuts is that can be done with 50 votes under reconciliation. It means it expires after 10 years. And the question will be about deficit neutrality. Will the Freedom Caucus members who preached no deficits be hypocrites and vote for a bill that is deficit spending on the promise that it will pay for itself? That's really what it's going to come down to. I think if they buy into that, we can get tax cuts.
9 minutes ago, Sean Spicer wrapped up the daily press briefing, and John Roberts of Fox News asked him a question. Donald Trump is tweeting and tweeting and tweeting, Ed Rollins. And is he tweeting to put pressure on the mainstream media, who he says doesn't interpret what he is doing correctly? Is he hurting himself?
I've been around.
What's with all these tweets?
I've been around a long time and worked for 4 presidents and a couple of White Houses. I can't predict what this president's going to do. The first rule you always say to a candidate is don't think, or an incumbent, don't think out loud. This president has a tendency to do that, and that's what the tweets are.
Right.
So you know what he's thinking every given morning at 5:30 in the morning.
Or at night.
Or at night, whichever the case may be. The critical thing here is it does step in the way of selling your package, selling your infrastructure this week, or you would much rather deal with the mainstream media, would much rather deal with the tweets. The key thing here, I think, is he's got to get some stuff going pretty quickly here. He's got all the members of Congress over there today. He should, at least the Republicans, so he should have a better feel of what can get done and get it done. That's the key thing.
Rich, do you think that the tweets put pressure on lawmakers and appeal to his base, or are they more negative at this point?
You know, look, I think so many of these tweets are self-defeating. You know, when he says about the travel ban, which I think could well be used against him in the Supreme Court, when he tweeted about Obama, you know, basically wiretapping Trump Towers. So many of these things end up backfiring that I think it ultimately hurts his popularity. We see in the polls, the public would rather him not tweet Mitch McConnell would rather him not tweet. And therefore, I think that ultimately it hurts him in the eyes of House Republicans who are put on the fence. They go back home. So you voted for President Trump. Do you subscribe to that or not? I think that's a tough question, tough position to put them in. And therefore, ultimately, I think, Ed's right. I think he'd be better off if he kind of held off on the tweets and did things in a more routine way.
Richard Goodstein, Ed Rollins, thank you so much for your time and your perspective. Good to see both of you.
Thank you.